Hello, my name is Andrew, and this will be my first ever video that I have done and been in front of the camera, and it will also be my very first review of any kind of products of the sort, and hopefully there will be more to come. I am very happy to be reviewing the JSB King Heavy pellets. So most of you are pretty familiar if you've been around the 25 caliber air guns. Is JSB makes a JSB Exact King, which is a 25 caliber pellet that weighs in at 25.4 grains. Well, this is the King Heavy, and the King Heavy is supposed to weigh 33.95 grains, and we will weigh some of them to see how uniform they are in weight. So I want these pellets to be able to use in my Kalibrgun Cricket, which is in 25 caliber. I've only had the gun for a few weeks, and so far I found that it really likes the heavier pellets. It does do pretty well with the JSB Kings, but it did better even with the H&N Barracudas. And the Barracudas weigh in at 31 grains, and out of my caliber gun, it was producing 57 foot-pounds of energy, and that's at the muzzle. That was measured with a Magnetospeed V3 chronograph. It attaches directly to the barrel and uses magnets to actually get the velocity. And then I also was using a second chronograph, which is a CED Millennium with the infrared screens to get a downrange velocity and energy to be able to see with the how much velocity and energy the pellet shed from the muzzle out to 50 yards. And on the Barracudas, I found that in my Kalibrgun Cricket, they would start out at 57 foot-pounds of energy, and at 50 yards, they would be down to 40 pounds, which is still pretty incredible for a pellet gun. Well, these Exact King Heavies, I expect will actually retain a little more energy on a percentage base, but I don't know yet how much energy they'll produce out of the Kalibrgun Cricket. As you can see, these come in a tin of 300, and they also come in a tin of 150. The pellets look to be pretty uniformed, and they're packaged really nicely. I haven't really seen, whenever I was looking through these a little earlier, I didn't really see too many deformed skirts or other irregularities on the pellets that I just randomly went through. So, off camera, I did do some measurements of the pellets, and what I found is that the head of the pellet, actually let me take one of these pellets out to describe to you or show you what the head is if you're not familiar with that. Let's see if I have a pen. Oh, I don't. Oh, here's one right over here. Alright, so let me put this on here so maybe you can see it a little better. So the head of the pellet, which is right here, is where I took the measurement from. It measured 6.35 millimeters or 0.25 inches. I noticed whenever I was putting in my magazine for my Kalibrgun Cricket right here, it's a 12-shot magazine, that they didn't all seat completely, and I know you're not going to be able to see this in the video, but some of them actually stick up a little bit above the bottom of the magazine, and they definitely are well inside the magazine, so they're not too long. It's just, for whatever reason, it seemed like more often than not, they didn't seat completely by hand, by pushing them in there. Let me get back to this. So 6.35 millimeters, which is 0.25 inches for the head, and then the bases measured out at 6.62 millimeters or 0.26 inches. So basically a 25 caliber head and a 26 caliber skirt. Let me put this back in here. So what I'll be doing today is I'll be using my Kalibrgun Cricket, and I'll be shooting these out to 50 yards and be shooting them for group, and also measuring the velocity of these pellets both at the muzzle and down at 50 yards. And like I said, the way I'm able to do this is I have a a Magnetospeed chronograph which attaches right to the barrel. So I mean, there's only maybe 3 or 4 inches from the muzzle is where I'm getting my muzzle velocity, and then right at the 50-yard mark, or maybe like 49 yards, I'll have the chronograph will be directly right in front of the 50-yard target. And the second chronograph is a Millennium CED chronograph, which has infrared screens on there, so it's very accurate. And I'll be getting muzzle velocities as well as 50-yard velocities, and then we can calculate what the foot-pounds of energy is, which should be really interesting. All right, well, I will cut to a different part of the video now. Okay, so here we are in my basement. I'll be using this RCBS Chargemaster 1500 to go ahead and weigh the pellets. I have the pellets right over here. Sorry about the mess. This is my bench here that I have a lot of things going on. Trying to get these pellets opened up here. Alright. So, we'll open this right here. I have a pellet in my hand, so it's kind of hard to manipulate that. Alright. So, right here, as you can see, the scale is zeroed. We'll go ahead and set one of the pellets down there. And this scale only goes down to the 1/10 of a grain. So that one's at 33.9 grains. Take another one here. That says 34.3 grains. Actually, I think maybe I should zero it without the scale, because without the little holder here. That's making it a little challenging to get these pellets in and out. So let's go ahead and zero the scale back out again. Alright, now that the scale is zero, let's try this again. So, 34.3, and I'll weigh that last pellet again, just for consistency. 33.9. 34.0, 33.5. So not as consistent as I had hoped for, at least not on this scale. And this scale is really accurate. 34.8. 33.6. So we're getting a little bit over, so far, 1.2. And here's another pellet that I'd already weighed, so let me see what this is at. 34. Let me grab another pellet here. $33.8. So there's 7 pellets I weighed. 33.2. 34.6. And I may weigh these again here in a little while just to see, because I just turned on the scale. Sometimes these scales need to sit for a few minutes before they actually can give their most accurate readings, and I'm hoping that's the case. But if it isn't, then it seems that we have about a 1.2 grain variation in these 9 pellets that I weighed. Okay, and here's my setup here that we'll be testing these pellets. It's my 25 caliber Kalibrgun Cricket. Like I said, with the pellets I have shot through it so far, I've used the Barracudas, which gives about 57 foot-pounds of energy. And that's with the pellet coming out at 910 feet per second. I did put a, I think it's a 6.5 to 25 Hawk scope on there, Hawk Sidewinder, and then I had bought one of these camera mounts here, like that I saw on Ted Holdover's site that he'd used, and I have a Nikon Coolpix S8100 camera that I'm going to try to scope cam to be able to get a view of the pellets as they leave the barrel and make their way out to 50 yards. Not sure how well that will work because I haven't tried this yet, but we will find out. Alright, so here's my Kalibrgun Cricket with the Magnetospeed V3 chronograph that's mounted to the front of the barrel. As you can see, it just uses a strap to hold it on. There's nothing in the way of the barrel. We just have to make sure that it lines up so the pellets won't hit the chronograph. So that's how it mounts up. There's a little jack on the bottom that we just attach this cable here. And the cable, the other end is right here. It plugs into this little data box here that whenever you plug it in and it's all hooked up, turns on and asks you about the different settings. It's not actually on the default settings because of the sensitivity. It's going to be set to 8. I think normal is around 2, but I need to make it a little more sensitive for these pellet guns. As far as accuracy is concerned, it seems to be pretty well on. I looked at other data and compared it to my data that I received with this chronograph, and it shows that the Barracudas, like I said, were making about 57 foot-pounds and then 40 foot-pounds at 50 yards. And other data that I looked at online, and I can't remember which website, showed that out of a 57 foot-pound energy rifle, that at 50 yards, the Barracudas held about 39.9 is what they said. So about 40 foot-pounds of energy. Alright, so I'm back from going outside and shooting the rifle. Got some really excellent results, which I'll show to you here in a few minutes, but I do just want to take this opportunity to let you guys know that I wasn't able to use the scope camera, tried, and failed horribly. This mount here, whenever you put your camera on there, it has to be at a certain angle, and I just kept on getting some vignette, and I couldn't get it to focus on the crosshairs and get the chronograph data and do everything else. So I just said, well, I'll just do a scope cam later with these pellets, but for right now we'll get to the information, and that way you can see how well these pellets perform. Alright, so I'm back, having went out and done some groups with the Kalibrgun Cricket and the new JSB King Heavies in 25 caliber, the ones that weigh 34 grains. I apologize, I wasn't able to actually do some scope cam. I tried it out. It was the first time using it, and it wasn't really giving me the results that I would have hoped for, so I plan on trying this a little bit later with the scope cam at least. But here's the data. I've had it up here for a couple of seconds. This is what came off the Magnetospeed. It was actually a 20-shot string, but I only captured, I think, 19 of them. As you can see, with the JSB King Heavies, we had a maximum velocity of 876, a minimum of 869, and that gives us an average of 871, and the standard deviation on these pellets was 2.0 feet per second. At 50 yards, I have some data over here that I just wrote down on the back of the target that I shot, because the other chronograph, whenever I unhook it, it loses all the data. So on this one, I captured 19 of the 20 shots that I had done. As you can see, they're pretty consistent. I stopped writing the 700s down at the last few shots there. But I had a high velocity of 779, a low of 768, for an extreme spread of 10 and a standard deviation of 3. And this is the velocities at 50 yards. So you can see we start at, over here, an average of 871, and at 50 yards we are down to an average velocity of 774, which equates to about 57 foot-pounds at the muzzle and a little over 45 foot-pounds down at 50 yards. So that's pretty impressive power there. Definitely better than the Barracudas, which had come at 40 foot-pounds at 50 yards and starting at the same 57 foot-pounds. Alright, and here are the groups I shot with it. I actually shot another set of groups. It's on a different target with the Barracudas as well, just to give a comparison. They seem to both be pretty accurate, and I apologize for the shaky video here. But whenever I measured out the groups, it's probably easier. It's kind of hard to do this on camera, but about 4/10 of an inch. This one's a little bit more than that there. Center to center, that is. About a half. And this was the very first group. The wind was definitely moving quite a bit here where I'm at. I have an open field, and it's not the calmest day today, but it's not really high winds either. So we're maybe about 7 to 10 mile an hour winds. So that's why I shot a number of groups, just to kind of try to eliminate the wind factor there. And here we go. Here's that other target I was talking about. As you can see, the top 3 groups, I was just kind of like sighting in, and those were all the King Heavies, the one there right up here. Group number 1 was the one in the middle. Then to the left is the second group, which I only did 3. And then the last group was there. And then here are the Barracudas that I shot. I had 12 shots here, but the group on the left, I think I shot about, that's about a 9-shot group, and the group on the left was a 4-shot group. On the right. So you can see the Barracudas definitely do well. That's well within 4/10 of an inch. This one here, not too bad, but that was these. Also, the difference with the groups is on these shots I was using a swiveling bipod, which I found not to be the best. So on the last target that I showed you, I actually used my rifle rest and a rear bag and shot from the prone position, and definitely did much better with that. Well, there you have it. The JSB King Heavies. They shoot pretty well out of my Kalibrgun Cricket, and definitely retain a massive amount of energy.